Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the LaunchDay podcast. I'm your host, Dean Cvetkoski, a.k.a. WhoDean, and today in studio, we have a really cool guest. Let me tell you, he's got a background in professional sports. He's also going into mindset coaching. And I can see how those two things align. But without going into too much details myself, I'm going to introduce Kew Jaliens over here in the studio right now. Kew, how you going, man?
I'm very well, mate. How about yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad at all. It's a bit hot today, but otherwise pretty good, pretty good.
Okay,
That's the
nice.
way. So Q, look, I don't know too much about your history with sports, and so do you want to run me through just a bit of a background? Who you are, what you've been doing professionally for the last however many years. Do you want to run me through that real quick?
I'll give you a quick rundown. So I was born in the Netherlands. From there, started playing football very early. I had my breakthrough when I was early 18s, when I signed my first contract. Uh,
Nice.
and I played professional football for almost 2 decades.
And
Uh,
to be clear, right? So when we say football, for all those Western people out here, football meaning like soccer, correct?
yeah, the round ball.
Yeah, that's I could never understand like when people call football like NRL and rugby and gridiron. I don't know how they call that football when the ball's in their hands. You
Yeah,
know what I
so
mean? It
true,
never
so
made
true.
sense to me.
And as well, to be fair, like the countries that call football soccer weren't really in the process of football in the first place.
Mm.
So for me, if you didn't make it, you can't name it. That's
Mm,
my
mm, mm,
discussion
mm.
point.
Yeah, I get you, dude. I get you completely. I love that. All right, so cool. So you started. I find it interesting too, right? Because I actually played professional football when I was younger too. So something we have in common, which is pretty cool.
Cool.
I was a
Yeah, nice,
goalkeeper.
nice.
Yeah, man. So look, you
I have
went
to test.
there.
I have to test you sometimes, then.
Yeah, man. Hey, we'll tee up a game. Absolutely. I'm a bit rusty. It's been a while, but
I'll
definitely.
get you there. I'll get you some coaching, and we'll get there.
Yeah, perfect. Love it. Fantastic. That's good. So tell me, man. So you went. You sort of made it big. I mean, what was the story behind that? I mean, run me through that. Where did you go from teenage years? Where'd you go from there?
So most of my career played in the Netherlands. I played Champions League with 3 different clubs. I've played at the 2006 World Cup in Germany.
Wow.
Played the 2008 Olympics in Beijing. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, won a few championships as well along the way. So yeah, I had a very, very good and blessed career.
I'm just
Uh,
gonna. Hold on, I'm just gonna Google you real quick. Hold on. So which teams did you play for?
so in the Netherlands, Sparta Rotterdam, Willem II, and AZ Alkmaar.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wow.
and with AZ Alkmaar, we won the championship. And that was also the time I made it into the national team. Uh,
Wow.
and from there, I moved to Poland. I played in Poland for 2.5 years for Wisla Krakow,
Mm.
and won a championship there as well. Played Champions League with them as well. And after that, I came to Australia, played for the Newcastle Jets and for Melbourne City. And that's
Yeah,
where I
wow. I'm
come
looking
up
at
the
your
most.
profile now. Like you've even got a Google knowledge panel, right? So I mean, you're like genuinely famous, right? So it's here. It's cool. Welcome to the show, my friend. Welcome to the show. That's cool.
Thank you.
I love that. Like, so you've got here career start 1997, 45 years of age. I've got another podcast interview with someone else as well, Euro football star official. You got photos, man. I love this. I'm seeing a photo right now. You've got a bit of an afro going, and you've got the mo,
Yeah,
man.
true.
You've still got the mo. I love that. But what happened to the hair, man? The afro wasn't serving you much anymore, or what happened
Yeah,
there?
no, I had it braided for quite a while. I think last year
Yeah,
I took it off and went fresh again. But
yeah.
yeah, my hair grows so fast. Like I could be back with the throw in a few.
That's cool, man. That's actually really, really cool. So, look, you're going into mindset coaching, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
You've gone from a professional soccer / football career. I have to put it out there because if I keep saying football, all these people are going to be like, oh, yeah, rugby. Football / soccer career. You've gone into mindset coaching. Why the jump into mindset coaching? I mean, hey, yes, I'm talking to you. And I know it looks like the interview, but it's actually not. We're taking a really quick, short break so that way you can hear me out. I really want you to hear me out here. If you are a business owner, you are building your personal brand. I mean, you could be anyone. You could be a real estate agent. You could be an astronaut, an IT professional. It really doesn't matter who you are and where you fit into the world. This interview is great for you. If you're really struggling to make content, and let's face it, right? When we get our phones out and we're like, taking selfies and doing videos that way, it just comes across as inauthentic. And the other side of that as well is the fact that it's just so hard to come up with ideas of what kind of content to create. And this is where our interviews absolutely bring a powerhouse and an arsenal of, basically a war chest in terms of your organic content marketing that you're creating. We create the TikToks and Reels for you. Here's the thing. I've got some great news. The great news is that this interview is completely free. We boost your SEO on Google because we go and feature these videos like the one you're watching on YouTube. And not only that, but we also give you free content to post to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and all the rest of it as well. So if you haven't already, in the description down below is a link to Linktree where you'll see the opportunity for you to book your very own interview and get free content for your personal brand or your business as well. I'll see you on the other side of the screen. So Kew, look, tell me, man, you've gone from a professional football career and now you're getting into mindset coaching. I mean, there's a pretty big disparity between the two things, but I can see potentially where there may be some similarities. Run me through that. What made you get into mindset coaching after your football career?
So one of the things was like going back to my career. One of the things that I always brought was my mindset, my mentality, and that set me apart from a lot of other players. And I think also that's one of the biggest things that kept me on that highest level for 2 decades. And as well, after my career, being around a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people, came to find out that a lot of things that came for me naturally during my career and still come naturally for me, don't come naturally for a lot of people. And this would be like my discipline, uh, my schedules, like working towards your peak moment. So when, for example, when I used to play, if my game was on a Saturday or Sunday, that would be a massive difference for me because I would like my whole week would lead up to my peak moment. Uh, and having those chats, for example, with entrepreneurs where they got a big business, they know the business, know the numbers, money's coming in, but then the lifestyle doesn't follow that aspect. So for me, if you can get yourself to a certain level, like your business, scaling of your business just flow with your own growth. So that's what I try to bring to people. Get that like professional athlete mindset of getting your things outside of the pitch sorted, like your diet, nutrition, your work rate, your rest, all the things that I had to do for 2 decades or more than 2 decades.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to teach and bring to entrepreneurs.
And, that's one of the things I find it so interesting you said that, right? Because for our other interviews, so we have our Amplify interviews, which are about 1.5, 2 hours long. And in those interviews, we send out an email to them. And part of those emails, they say about 24 hours before your interview, have a conversation with your partner, your wife, your husband, whoever it may be, and say, look, if there are any issues, that you wanted to bring up, can we put them for tomorrow afternoon? Because I have a big interview coming up and I have to be in the right mindset for it. We give them a little bit of a diet plan, something to eat, 24 hours leading up to your interview, what your diet should look like. As part of that, we say, look, stay away from heavy carbs, of the morning of your interview. You can have your carbs at night before you go to bed, et cetera, and so on. But try and just stay nice, clean proteins, fruits, things like that. So, I mean, it makes sense what you're saying, right? But I mean, for those that are listening at home, at work, in the car, wherever they may be, where does that fit in for their day-to-day routine, right? So I feel like as an entrepreneur, I have to show up every day. So, you're talking about having a game on the weekend, so that way, and that's your big game day, and you have to put yourself in the right mindset for it. I mean, so what does that mean for an entrepreneur on the day-to-day?
So on the day to day, so what I had to do for like more than 2 decades as well. Like if you don't show up every day and you're not your best version during the week, you might lose your spot on the weekend.
Mm.
So that's like showing up every day, like despite what you feel, how you feel. You might had a bad night. One of the examples I can give you with my oldest daughter, for example, when she was born, I spent 2 days in the hospital, like almost no sleep. She was born in the morning and in the afternoon, and I have one of the big games, like we played against Feyenoord, an away game, heavy game, like one of the top games. And no one is gonna ask you like, mate, how did you sleep, or like what happened, or you're
They
just
expect
there.
you to show up, right? It's the
Yeah,
same in business. Like you've got
yeah, yeah,
staff, clients that are depending on you. You're just expected to show up,
yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah. And but that's that mindset that you need to have. Like, what does it take? Like, what kind of person do you need to be or become to rock up every day? And how do you rock up? That's also important, because if I rock up sleepy and I'm tired, and then the rest of your team or the rest of your squad or the rest of your staff will notice, like, hey, the boss is off today. Like, if his level is down, then our level might be down. So that's
That's
also
right.
one of the things to be mindful of as an entrepreneur.
And when
uh,
when your daughter was born, were you like the captain of the team that you were playing for at the time, or anything like that? Like,
so I was the like reserve captain at that time. So I was still a bit in my younger years. I had some
mm,
senior players around me. So I was part of the leadership group, but
mm.
not yet captain. But yeah, I was one of the starters. Like many years in a row, I've started. So I was one of the main guys to start the game. And like you said, like not only my team expected, but also the supporters. Like there's so many people that like you have to show up for, not just for yourself.
And
Uh,
I find it so interesting, right? Because and a lot of business owners don't always realize this. A lot of entrepreneurs don't realize this, but it's not just their family that's expecting them to show up. It's not just their staff, but it's also their supporters. So all the people that,
mm,
whether they're a client or not, like there's people on the sidelines that are cheering you on. And
yeah, yeah,
so, it's showing up for them too. Because imagine underperforming for those fans, for those people that are supporting you on the sidelines. They're going to find new people to support, right?
oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah. No, it's and one of the things that I teach as well is obligation and charity.
Mm.
Uh, because if you have a good run in life and you made it to a certain point, like at some point you're gonna have to give back. That's also one of the things I'm doing, because I know how blessed I am. I know the gift I was given, so it only makes sense for me to give back. And as well, one of the principles I live by is like you can't sow, you can't reap if you don't sow.
That's
So
right. It is. It's you reap what you sow, right?
yeah,
That comes from
yeah,
the Bible as well, I believe. So,
yeah, yeah. So and that's one of my life principles as well. And
mm,
I think that's a important factor as well, because you can make it big, but if you make it big just by yourself, like where's the joy?
yeah. What do you think was probably one of the most challenging parts of your career? Is it making the jump to becoming an entrepreneur? Is it, is it, in your sporting career? Was it there? What was probably the biggest challenges that you faced?
So to be fair, how my mind works, and from age of like 14, 15,
Mm.
having to be the better version of myself every day. Like the challenges I face, I more see as challenges and not as like something negative. Like it's something where like I feel I'm blessed to be in that situation.
You
So
see challenges as an opportunity to gain wisdom or, or
100%.
knowledge. Is that right?
100%. Yeah. And that's also one of the things, because I played at different levels of football as well. So when I
Mm.
started, for example, the team I was at was like bottom to middle of the table. Then I made a big transfer that was middle to top of the table. But I finished my career like in Holland, top of the table, like winning a championship, playing national team. And that change in mindset in those different teams is very different, 'cause especially in the beginning, if you play, and it's related to business as well, if you just starting up and you kind of play bottom of the table, a lot of fear may creep in, and that fear might paralyze you, because like when I was playing, it's like, oh, don't make a mistake. If I make a mistake and they score, if we lose, or we might relegate, or like there's all sorts of like voices creeping in, fears creeping in. But
Absolutely.
yeah, but when I got to that like Champions League mindset, like every bit of fear that tries to creep in, you would convert into energy and opportunity, and really embracing that feeling, and also acknowledging that feeling, and not letting it paralyze you. And I think it's the same in business with entrepreneurs. Like you just start up, but then once you make it big, like you all have that next level of confidence, and that's a very different feeling than having that fear that paralyzes you.
This is a good one, right? Because I truly believe that in this moment we could actually do or show your viewers and our viewers an example of you in that work and that field that you're operating in now, which is the mindset coaching. So, what would be your advice to someone like me? So, let me run you through a scenario with me, and then you can tell
Yep.
me, give me some pointers and things like that. So, right
Yep.
now, um, I have a fear of, is what I'm doing right? So, but I show up. I still show up. I put on my
Yep.
best clothes. I put the hat on, and I show up, and I do exactly what's required of me. But in some of those darker moments, in when I've got time, when I'm in my head at some point. Maybe the finances. Aaron Sansoni talks about this a lot. Is like, you get into a shitty bit, and then you go back up, and then a
Yeah.
shitty
Yeah.
bit, and you go back up. And so I find that throughout those processes, I'm questioning myself, whether I'm on the right path or I'm doing the right thing, or
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean. So there's a whole series of things that come with that, and I will share as well. So 2 years ago, I actually went through a divorce.
Yeah.
I've got my two daughters as well, right? So that was a difficult one. For a
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
year, I went through an identity crisis, and then the following year, when I started getting back on my feet, I had a stroke. So,
Yeah.
um,
So yeah. Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what I
That's
mean? I've
life.
had,
Yeah.
yeah,
Life.
there's
Yeah.
been a lot. There's been a lot that's happened over the course of the last 24 months.
Yeah.
And so now it's like that my mind does play games with me sometimes. And I
Yeah.
know I'm on the right track because I've got, what the hardest thing is, Q, as well, is that people will compliment what I do, and they'll say, oh, it's really amazing what you and your team do, and we really
Yeah. Yeah.
love
Yeah.
it. I've got so many supporters, but then there's part of me that's not accepting those supporters. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
I
Does that make
understand
sense?
what. Yeah, I understand what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So what
So
would be your advice to me?
so for my end, first thing that I want to tell you or say to you is everything you just mentioned as being difficult or being a challenge, like you sitting here in front of me today, like, so you already overcame so much already. So if you put that energy into making that next step forward, it can only bring you so much more. And if you have doubt in your mind, or like, if I'm on the right path, or what if you are, and what if you make it, and what if you get to that next target, you can only jump further and further. So instead of like having that fear of paralyzing you and keeping you down, man, you've come a long way already, and that might be your first step forward. So for me, it's about, man, you have to keep going.
Effort
You have to
compounds,
keep
right?
going. Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I appreciate that, right? Sometimes I know I've asked a few people this, and sometimes the answer that they give you is overcomplicated. I like that, you've put it very, very simply, and that's you've come this far. And
Yeah,
then you look behind you and you're kind of like, yeah, shit, I have come this far. And
yeah,
like, do you want to go back down the mountain, or do you want to go and make it to the top
100%.
of it?
Yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah,
once you get there, shit, man. Now, see, you know what you're doing for me now. There was a quote that I came up with when I was a teenager. I mean, when I was a teenager, I used to come up with like inspirational quotes all the
yeah,
time. And there was this one. It's funny you mentioned that. So you climb the hill, and then it's when you're at the top of the hill that you realize that ahead of you there's one that's even higher. And
oh
part of
yeah,
that is going to be a downhill. So you're going to have to go down
yeah,
there, and then to get even higher than the last hill that you just climbed, you have to go down, and then you'll go
yeah,
back up
100%.
again. I
Yeah, no,
appreciate that, man.
that's
That's
one of the
actually,
things.
yeah.
One of the things I do with goal setting. Like, if you set your destination already, like things might happen that will give you a reroute, but as
Mm,
long as you keep your destiny or that goal inside, you're always going to move forward.
mm,
And
mm,
in
mm,
life,
mm,
like things will happen, like it happens to everyone, and the one thing might be worse than the other. But as long as you've got your goal set and you know your destination, you're
mm.
always going to move forward.
I love that. I love that. And I do have those goals. They're there, and I know exactly where we're going, exactly where we're
Yeah,
heading, exactly what we're going to do. And it is just, how would you deal with the shitty bit? So the shitty bit might be, not enough growth, or it could be finances. I'm speaking generally here
yeah,
for a wider audience, right? Just to
yeah.
play devil's advocate. But what would you do when it's not just about your mindset, but there's also other factors that are, taking hold of you that
Yeah.
are preventing you from progressing forward? What would be your advice there for someone who is going through that?
So one of the pillars I teach as well is about relationships. The people that you have around you.
Mm,
So in my case, for example, I met my wife when I was 17, like before playing football, before I had a car. Um, and it's a fact that I wouldn't have accomplished all that I did without her. So you need to have your support system around you. So people that will give you that positive vibe, people that will keep you moving forward. If you're down, that they can have that pep talk with you, that will give you that extra boost. So just that you know that you're not alone in the fight you're in. And I think that's very important to have.
and
Like
that's a
I,
good point, right? Because like even you have issues with parents, and like I'll give you an example, like my dad. If I said, oh, I've gone to due diligence on an acquisition of a company, I'm really excited. They've got really healthy profits, and I'll have, the amount paid off in 12 months with the profits that the company is already generating, and I can
yeah,
see gaps and holes, and I can do this and I can do that. My dad would turn around to me and say, okay, show me when you have the keys. You know what I
yeah,
mean? He's like, tell me when you've got it. I don't want to
yeah,
hear about it now. It's really fucking demotivating. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I get that completely.
No, so that's why, like you, because in the end, you're not fighting alone. So, for example, with your business, if you don't have the right people around you, the right staff, the right manager, things can go downhill very quick. If something happens, something negative happens. So it's very important that you have like your foxhole, you have like the positive people around you that can motivate you, because you're gonna need that when something negative happens, and you can't just do it on your own.
That's awesome,
So,
man.
so that's why I'm very big on relationships as well.
That's awesome, man. Q, look, I think that your voice needs to be heard by a lot more people. And I'm happy to be able to give you a platform to have your voice heard. That's awesome, man, because it is like there's so much wisdom and knowledge that you have to share, and so many real life experiences that other people can relate to in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important, man, for you that you spend a lot more time just getting your name out there, because, like I said, I think there's a lot more people that need to hear your voice and hear what you have to share with them. Because I truly believe it, just from this conversation alone. I think you're going to impact the lives of thousands of people to come. Let me tell you, I believe in you, man.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, no, I'm here to bring that positive vibe, and for people that are in doubt or might not know it where they're heading at the moment. Like I'm that like inspirational guy, and that mindset coach that will move you forward. Like we're gonna climb
Absolutely.
that mountain together.
I love that, man. I really love that. Well, Q, listen, man. Look, for those that are watching, how can they get in touch with you?
So first, my through email, number one asset coaching at gmail.com. I recently set up my socials. Number one asset on Instagram, and through my own name, Kew Jaliens on Facebook.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. And we can look you up. We can get in touch. We can get in contact. That's cool. And guys,
Yes.
look, if you want to get in touch directly with Q as well, feel free to email us. It's support@launchday.au. We'd be more than happy to put you in touch. And, I definitely think that, after this conversation, I think there's definitely a couple more that need to be had, on a longer interview, I think, if you probably agree with me, Q.
Yeah, I'm always open to it. Like I'm here to help people because that's where I get my joy. So I'm happy to help.
That's awesome, man. Q, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it, brother. That's awesome.
Yeah, likewise. I appreciate you and your time, and thanks very much for giving the platform.
Yeah, you're very welcome, man. You're very, very welcome. And for all of you listening at home, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Launch Day Shorts podcast. We'll see you again on the next one.